गुरुवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः. First of all, offer me millions of obeisances to lotus feet of Asmadi Guru Pad Padma, Nityalabh Prashta Jagat Guru Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Trilandi Swami Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Dandi Maharaj, Nam Nishta Santa Shri Aniruddha Das Prabhuji, and all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavas who have gathered here, please accept my humble obeisances. Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, Text 36. Iktuktva roshatamraksho vayasyan rishibalaka kaushikapya upasprishya vagvajram visasarja. Iti, thus, Uktva, saying, Roshatamra Aksha, with red hot eyes, due to being angry, Vayasyan, unto the playmates, Rishi Balaka, the son of a Rishi, Kaushiki, the river Kaushika, Apaha, water, Upasprishya, by touching, Vak, words, Vajram, thunderbolt, Visasarja, through her in the past. The son of the Rishi, his eyes red hot with anger, touched the water of the river Kaushika while speaking to his playmates and discharged the following thunderbolt of words. The circumstances under which Maharaj Parikshit was cursed were simply childish. As it appears from this verse, Shringi was showing his impudency amongst his playmates, who were innocent. Any sane man would have prevented him from doing such great harm to all human society. By killing a king like Maharaj Parikshit just to make a show of acquired Brahminical power, the inexperienced son of a Brahmana committed a great mistake. Text 37. Iti langita maryadam takshaka saptameyani. Iti langita maryadam takshaka saptameyani. Dangshati smakulangaram chodito me tatadruham. Iti, thus, langita, surpassing, maryadam, etiquette, takshakaha, snake bird, saptame, on the seventh, ahani, day, dangshati, will bite, sma, certainly, kul angaram, the wretched of the dynasty, choditaha, having done, me, my, tadruham, enmity towards the father. The Brahmana's son cursed the king thus, on the seventh day from today, a snake bird will bite the most wretched one of that dynasty, Maharaj Parikshit, because of his having broken the laws of etiquette by insulting my father. Thus the beginning of the misuse of Brahminical power began, and gradually the Brahmanas in the age of Kali became devoid of both Brahminical powers and culture. The Brahman boy considered Maharaj Parikshit to be a kulangar, or the wretched of the dynasty, but factually the Brahman boy himself was so, because only from him did the Brahmana's caste become powerless, like the snake whose poison teeth are broken. The snake is fearful as long as his poison teeth are there. Otherwise, he is fearful only to children. The personality of Kali conquered the Brahman by first and gradually the other caste. Thus, the whole scientific system of the orders of society in this age has assumed the form of a vitiated caste system, which is now being uprooted by another class of men, similarly influenced by the age of Kali. One should see to the root cause of vitiation and not try to condemn the system as it is without knowledge of its scientific value. Text 38. Tato abhityaashramam balo gale sarpakalevaram pitaram viksha dukkharto mukta kantho rurodha. Tataha, thereafter, abhitya, after entering into ashramam, the hermitage, bala, boy, gale, sarpa, the snake on the shoulder, kalevaram, body. Pitaram, unto the father. Viksha, having seen. Dukkha artaha, in a sorry plight. Mukta kantaha, loudly. Ruroda, cried her in the past. Thereafter, when the boy returned to the hermitage, he saw a snake on his father's shoulder, and out of his grief he cried very loudly. The boy was not happy because he committed a great mistake, and he wanted to be relieved of the burden on his heart by crying. So after entering the hermitage and seeing his father in that condition, he cried loudly so that he might be relieved. But it was too late. The father regretted the whole incident. Text 39. Savangirasas Brahman Shrutva Suta Vilapanam Unmilya Shanakair Netre Društva Chamse Mrutoragam. So he also, Angirasa, the Rishi, born in the family of Angira, Brahman O Shaunaka, Shrutva, on hearing, Suta, his son, Vilapanam, crying in distress, Unmilya, opening, Shanakai, gradually, Netre, by the eyes, Društva, by seeing, Cha, also, Amse, on the shoulder, Mruta, dead, Uragam, snake. O Brahman, the Rishi, who was born in the family of Angira Muni, hearing his son crying, gradually opened his eyes and saw the dead snake around his neck. Text 40. Visrujyatam cha prapachhavatsa kasmadhirodishi kenavate apakrutam ityuktasvana vedayat. Visrujya, throwing aside, tam, that, cha, also, prapacha, asked, Vatsa, my dear son, kasmat, what for? He, certainly, rodishi, crying, kena, by which, va, otherwise, they, apakrutam, misbehaved, iti, thus, uktaha, being asked, saha, the boy, nevedayat, informed of everything. He threw the dead snake aside and asked his son why he was crying, whether anyone had done him harm. On hearing this, the son explained to him what had happened. The father did not take the dead snake on his neck very seriously. He simply threw it away. Actually, there was nothing seriously wrong in Maharaj Parikshit's act, but the foolish son took it very seriously. And being influenced by Kali, he cursed the king, and thus ended a chapter of happy history. Text 41. Nishamya Shaptam Atad Arham Narendram Sabrahmano Natmajam Abhyanandat Aho Batam Ho Mahadadyate Krutam Alpiyasi Droha Ururdam Odrutam. Nishamya, after hearing Shaptam, cursed, Atat Arham, never to be condemned, Nara Indram, into the king, best of humankind, Saha, that, Brahmana, Brahman Rishi, no, not, Atmajam, his own son, Abhyanandat, congratulated, Aho, alas, but distressing, Amha, sins, Mahat, great, Adya, today, Te, yourself, Krutam, performed, Alpiyasi, insignificant, Drohe, offense, Uruhu, very great, Damaha, punishment, Dritaha, awarded. The father heard from his son that the king had been cursed, although he should never have been condemned, for he was the best among all human beings. The Rishi did not congratulate his son, but on the contrary began to repent, saying, Alas, what a great sinful act was performed by my son. He has awarded heavy punishment for an insignificant offense. The king is the best of all human beings. He is the representative of God and is never to be condemned for any of his actions. In other words, the king can do no wrong. The king may order hanging of a culprit son of a Brahmana, but he does not become sinful for killing a Brahmana. Even if there is something wrong With the king, he is never to be condemned. A medical practitioner may kill a patient by mistaken treatment, but such a killer is never condemned to death. So what to speak of a good and pious king like Maharaj Parikshit? In the Vedic way of life, the king is trained to become a Rajarshi or a great saint, although he is ruling as king. It is the king only whose good government the citizens can live peacefully and without any fear. The Rajarshis would manage their kingdom so nicely and piously that their subjects would respect them as if they were the Lord. That is the instruction of the Vedas. The king is called Narendra, or the best amongst the human beings. How then could a king like Maharaj Parikshit be condemned by an inexperienced, puffed-up son of a Brahmana, even though he had attained the powers of a qualified Brahman? Since Shamik Rishi was an experienced good Brahman, he did not approve of the actions of his condemned son. He began to lament for all that his son had done. The king was beyond the jurisdiction of curses as a general rule. And what to speak of a good king like Maharaj Parikshit? The offense of the king was most insignificant, and his being condemned to death was certainly a great sin for Shringi. Therefore, Rishi Shamik regretted the whole incident. Text 42. Navaindruhir naradevam parakhyam sammatum arhasya vipakva buddhe yat tejasa durvishahena gupta vindanti bhadranya kuto bhaya praja. No, never. Why, as a matter of fact, Drubhi by any man, Naradevam unto a man god, Para-akhyam who is transcendental, Sammatum placed on equal footing, Arhasi by the prowess, Avipakwa unripe or immature, Buddhe intelligence, Yat of whom, Tejasa by the prowess, Durvisahena unsurpassable, Guptaha protected, Vinnanti enjoys, Bhadrani all prosperity, Akutaha Bhayaha completely defended, Puja the subjects. O my boy, your intelligence is immature and therefore you have no knowledge that the king, who is the best amongst human beings, is as good as the personality of Godhead, is never to be placed on an equal footing with common men. The citizens of the state live in prosperity, being protected by his unsurpassable powers. Text 43. Alakshamane naradeva namni rathangapana vayamangaloka tadahi chaurah prachuro vinangshati arakshamano vivaruthavat kshanat. Alakshamani being abolished, Naradeva monarchical, Namni of the name Ratha Angapano, the representative of the Lord. I am this Anga, O my boy, Loka, this world. Tadahi, at once, Chaura, thieves, Prachuraha, too much, Vinangshati, vanquishes, Arakshamanaha, being so protected, Avivaruthavat, like lambs, Kshanat, at once. My dear boy, the Lord who carries the wheel of a chariot is represented by the monarchical regime, and when this regime is abolished, the whole world becomes filled with thieves who then at once vanquish the unprotected subjects like scattered lambs. According to Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, the monarchical system represents the Supreme Lord, like the personality of Godhead. The king is said to be the representative of the absolute personality of Godhead because he is trained to acquire the qualities of God to protect the living beings. The battle of Kurukshetra was planned by the Lord to establish the real representative of the Lord, Maharaj Yudhishthir, an ideal king, thoroughly trained by culture and devotional service with the martial spirit, makes a perfect king. Such a personal monarchy is far better than the so-called democracy of no training and responsibility. The thieves and rogues of modern democracy seek election by misrepresentation of votes, and the successful rogues and thieves devour the mass of population. One trained monarch is far better than the hundreds of useless ministerial rogues, and it is hinted herein that by abolition of a monarchical regime like that of Maharaj Parikshit, the mass of people become open to many attacks of the age of Kali. They are never happy in an overly advertised form of democracy. The result of such a kingless administration is described in the following verses. Text 44. Tadadhyana papa mupaitanvayam yannashtanathasya vasor vilupakat. Tadadhyana papam upaiti ananvayam yannashtanathasya vasor vilumpakat. Parasparam ghanti kshapanti vrinjate pashun strivarthan purudasya vojana. Tat, for this reason, adya, from this day, na, upon us, papam, reaction of sin, upaiti, will overtake, ananvayam, disruption, yat, because, nashta, abolished, nathasya, of the monarch, vaso, of wealth, vilumpakat, being plundered, parasparam, between one another, gnanti, will kill, shapanti, will do harm, vrinjate, will steal, pashun, animals, striya, women, arthan, riches, puru, greatly, dasyava, thieves, janaha, the mass of people. Due to the termination of the monarchical regime and plundering of the people's wealth by rogues and thieves, there will be great social disruptions. People will be killed and injured, and animals and women will be stolen. And for all these sins, we shall be responsible. The word na, we, is very significant in this verse. The sage rightly takes the responsibility of the Brahmanas as a community for killing monarchical government and thus giving an opportunity to the so-called democrats, who are generally plunderers of the wealth of the state's subjects. The so-called democrats capture the administrative machine without assuming responsibility for the prosperous condition of the citizens. Everyone captures the post for personal gratification, and thus instead of one king, a number of irresponsible kings grow up to tax the citizens. It is foretold herein that in the absence of good monarchical government, everyone will be the cause of disturbance for others by plundering riches, animals, women, etc. Text 45. Tadarya dharma praviliyate nrunam varnashramaachara yutastraimaya tato artha kama viniveshatatmana shunam kapinam iva varna sankara. Tada, at that time, Arya, progressive civilization, dharma, engagement, praviliyate, is systematically vanquished, nrunam, of humankind, varna, caste, ashrama, orders and orders of society, achara yutaha, composed in a good manner, traimayaha, in terms of the Vedic injunction, tataha, thereafter, artha, economic development, kama aviniveshita, fully absorbed in sense gratification, atmanam, of men, shunam, like dogs, kapinam, like monkeys, eva, thus, varna sankaraha, unwanted population. At that time, the people in general will fall systematically from the path of a progressive civilization in respects to the qualitative engagements of the caste and orders of society and the Vedic injunctions. Thus, they will be more attracted to economic development for sense gratification, and as a result, there will be an unwanted population on the level of dogs and monkeys. It is foretold herein that in the absence of a monarchical regime, the general mass of people will be an unwanted population like dogs and monkeys. As the monkeys are too sexually inclined and dogs are shameless in sexual intercourse, the general mass of population are born of illegitimate connection will systematically go astray from the Vedic way of good manners and qualitative engagements in the caste and orders of life. The Vedic way of life is the progressive march of the civilization of the Aryans. The Aryans are progressive in Vedic civilization. The Vedic civilization's destination is to go back to Godhead, back home, where there is no birth, no death, no old age, and no disease. The Vedas direct everyone not to remain in the darkness of the material world, but to go towards the light of the spiritual kingdom far beyond the material sky. The qualitative caste system and the orders of life are scientifically planned by the Lord and His representatives, the great rishis. The perfect way of life gives all sorts of instruction in things both material and spiritual. The Vedic way of life does not allow any man to be like the monkeys and dogs. A degraded civilization of sense gratification and economic development is the byproduct of a godless or kingless government of the people, by the people and for the people. The people should not therefore begrudge the poor administration they themselves elect. Text 46. Dharma palo narapati satu samrat brahashrava sakshan mahabhagavato rajarshir hayamedhayat shutrutta shramayuto dino naivasmashyapamarhati. Dharmapala, the protector of religion, Narapati, the king, Saha, he, too, but Samrat, emperor, Bruhat, highly, Shravaha, celebrated, Sakshat, directly, Mahabhagavata, the first-class devotee of the Lord, Raja Rishi, the saint among the royal order, Hayamedhayat, great performer of horse sacrifices, Kshut, hunger, Trut, thirst, Shrama Yutaha, tired and fatigued, Dinaha, stricken, no, never, Eva, thus, Asmat, by us, Shapat, curse, Arhati, deserves. The Emperor Parikshit is a pious king, is highly celebrated, and is a first-class devotee of the personality of Godhead. He is a saint amongst royalty, and he has performed many horse sacrifices. When such a king is tired and fatigued, being stricken with hunger and thirst, he does not at all deserve to be cursed. After explaining the general codes relating to the royal position and asserting that the king can do no wrong, therefore he is never to be condemned, the sage Shamika wanted to say something about about Emperor Parikshit specifically. The specific qualification of Maharaj Parikshit is summarized herein. The king, even calculated as a king only, was most celebrated as a ruler who administered the religious principles of the royal order. In the Shastras, the duties of all the caste and orders of society are prescribed. All the qualities of a Kshatriya mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 18.43 were present in the person of the emperor. He was also a great devotee of the Lord and a self-realized soul. Cursing such a king when he was tired and fatigued with hunger and thirst was not at all proper. Shamik Rishi thus admitted from all sides that Maharaj Parikshit was cursed most unjustly. Although all the Brahmanas were aloof from the incident, still for the childish action of a Brahmana boy, the whole world situation was changed. Thus Rishi Shamik, a Brahmana, took responsibility for all deterioration of the good orders of the world. Text 47. Apapeshu svabhrutteshu balena pakva buddhina papam kurtam tad bhagavan sarvatma kshantam arhati. Apapeshu, unto one who is completely free from all sins. Svabhrutteshu, unto one who is subordinate and deserves to be protected. Balena, by a child. Apakva, who is immature. Buddhina, by intelligence. Papam, sinful act. Krutam, has been done. Tat Bhagavan, therefore the personality of Godhead. Sarva Atma, who is all pervading. Kshantum, just to pardon, arhati, deserve. Then the Rishi played to prayed to all pervading personality of Godhead to pardon his immature boy who had no intelligence and who committed the great sin of cursing a person who was completely free from all sins, who was subordinate and who deserved to be protected. Everyone is responsible for his own action, either pious or sinful. Rishi Shabika could foresee that his son had committed a great sin by cursing Maharaj Parikshit, who deserved to be protected by the Brahmanas, for he was a pious ruler and completely free from all sins because of his being a first-class devotee of the Lord. When an offense is done unto the devotee of the Lord, it is very difficult to overcome the reaction. The Brahmanas, being at the head of the social order, are meant to give protection to their subordinates and not to curse them. There are occasions when a Brahman may furiously curse a subordinate Kshatriya or Vaishya, but in the case of Maharaj Parikshit, there were no grounds as already explained. The foolish boy had done it out of sheer vanity in being a Brahmana's son, and thus he became liable to be punished by the law of God. The Lord never forgives a person who condemns his pure devotee. Therefore, by cursing a king, the foolish Shringi had committed not only a sin but also the greatest offense. Therefore, the Rishi could foresee that only the Supreme Personality of Godhead could save his boy from his sinful act. He therefore directly prayed for pardon from the Supreme Lord, who alone can do a thing which is impossible to change. The appeal was made in the name of a foolish boy who had developed no intelligence at all. A question may be raised herein that since it was the desire of the Lord that Parikshit Maharaj be put into that awkward position so that he might be delivered from material existence, then why was the Brahmana's son made responsible for this offensive act? The answer is that the offensive act was performed by a child only so that he could be excused very easily. And thus the prayer of the father was accepted. But if the question is raised why the Brahmana's community as a whole was made responsible for allowing Kali into the world affairs, the answer is given in the Varaha Puran that the demons acted inimically towards the personality of Godhead but were not killed by the Lord, were allowed to take birth in the families of Brahmanas to take advantage of the age of Kali. The all-merciful Lord gave them a chance to have their births in the families of pious Brahmanas so that they could progress towards salvation. But the demons, instead of utilizing the good opportunity, misused the Brahminical culture due to being puffed up by vanity in becoming Brahmanas. The typical example is the son of Shamik Rishi, and all the foolish sons of Brahmanas are warned hereby not to become as foolish as Shringi and be always on guard against the demoniac qualities which they had in their previous births. The foolish boy was, of course, excused by the Lord, but others who may not have a father like Shamik Rishi will be put into great difficulty if they misuse the advantage of obtain the birth in a Brahmin family. Text 48. Tiraskruta vipralabdha shapta kshipta hatapi nasya tat pratikurvanti tadbhakta prabhopihi. Tiraskruta, being defamed, vipralabdha, being cheated, shaptaha, being cursed, shapitaha, disturbed by negligence, hantaha, or even being killed, api also, na, never, asya, for all these acts, tat, them, prakurvanti, contract, tat, the lords, bhaktaha, devotees, prabhavaha, powerful, api, although he, certainly. The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. Rishi Shamik also knew that the Lord does not forgive a person who has committed an offense at the feet of a devotee. The Lord can only give direction to take shelter of the devotee. He thought within himself that if Maharaj Parikshit would counter curse the boy, he might be saved. But he knew also that a pure devotee is callous about worldly advantages or reverses. As such, the devotee are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned in personal affairs, the devotees do not care for them. But in the case of their being performed against the Lord and his devotees, then the devotees take very strong action. It was a personal affair, and therefore Shamik Rishi knew that the king would not take counter action. Thus, there was no alternative than to place an appeal to the Lord for the immature boy. It is not that only the Brahmanas are powered enough to award curses or blessings upon the subordinates. The devotee of the Lord, even though he may not be a Brahmana, is more powerful than a Brahmana. But a powerful devotee never misuses the power for personal benefit. Whatever power the devotee may have is always utilized in service toward the Lord and his devotees only. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpataruvesya kripa sindhuvevacha paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Hare Krishna. Stand up.